Fine. Good morning, everybody. I hope my voice is clear. Yes. Good. So, in the yesterday's class, what we have discussed, I think it is pretty much clear. Okay, so we have discussed import substitution, financial inclusion. The words are clear. Okay, so import substitution. Why did they come up with import substitution? This is something which you have understood yesterday. And we understood that they wanted to protect the domestic market. So that is the reason they have come up with import substitution. Okay, and see, I've shown you this diagram also yesterday, where we were trying to restrict imports here. Okay, so we can restrict imports through trade barriers. That is what we have understood yesterday. And there are different types of trade barriers. One is tariff barrier, another one is non-tariff barrier. So these are the things which we have understood yesterday. So tariff barriers are barriers in the form of tax, and non-tariff barriers are non-tax barriers. Okay, so one question to you all: out of tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers, which barriers are going to be more dangerous for trade? Out of tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers, which barriers are going to be more dangerous, which will restrict trade? Yes. Okay, so the answer is non-tariff barriers. Simple. Here, tariff barrier is in the form of tax. So the product will become costly when it is going to move into the country. Okay, but when we talk about non-tariff barriers, okay, so it is something like we have discussed something like a quantitative restriction. Okay, and I said quantitative restriction, there will be an upper limit which is levied beyond which products will not be allowed into the country. That is called as quantitative restriction. Similarly, we have something like the sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Sanitary and the phytosanitary measures. Okay, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, in the sense that they will stop allowing certain products into the country, saying that it will affect the plant and animal health in the country. So, for example, they'll say we'll not buy Alfonso mangoes from India because you have used chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers, etc. Similarly, they can come up with saying we'll not buy shrimp from India because your shrimp is not in line with WHO, World Health Organization standards. So they can restrict the products completely, saying that it will affect plant and animal health. So this is a very typical thing, in the sense like non-tariff barriers are used by many countries so that they will protect their domestic market. So non-tariff barriers can increase protectionism. Non-tariff barriers can increase protectionism. So one more word here. So protectionism is you are trying to protect your domestic market. Protectionism is you're trying to protect your domestic market. So protectionism as a scenario, if you see presently also, during the Trump administration, Trump was trying to protect US market. Trump was trying to protect US job market. So protectionism especially has increased after 2007-8. So in 2007-8, there was financial crisis. Don't worry about that for now. But in 2007-8, there was financial crisis. Okay, so during that point of time, after that crisis, these developed countries started protecting themselves. Okay, so protectionism. Till here, I think things are clear. Okay, so let's start moving, let's go to the next entity. Okay, we have discussed this trade deficit and trade surplus. And trade deficit, if we have to understand trade deficit, so we said imports are more than exports. Simple. Yesterday we have discussed this. I said trade deficit means imports will be more than exports, and trade surplus means exports will be more than imports. Simple way to understand it. Yesterday we tried to discuss this. So we discussed trade is something like deals with export and import. Okay, and when I'm referring to deficit, means imports are more than exports. This is what we have understood yesterday. And trade surplus is nothing but we find exports more than imports. Exports more than imports. Okay. Okay, exports more than. Okay, now India's case, we generally face the problem of trade deficits. In India's case, I'm using the word problem here. So India's case, we find that most of the time our imports are more than exports. Our imports are more than exports. Now, what will be the problem? What is the issue? We'll try to understand. So yesterday we were talking about something called as a liquid currency. I use the word called liquid currency. So what is this liquid currency? Liquid currency is that currency which is accepted by every country. Liquid currency is that currency which is accepted by every country. So that is, it is, suppose Indian rupee is there. Indian rupee is not accepted everywhere. Okay, so Indian rupee is not a liquid currency. Okay, Indian rupee is not a liquid currency. Okay, similarly here, so mainly there are four major currencies which are seen as accepted by everybody. So these are the liquid currencies. One is, we have the dollars, US dollar. Another one is euros. We have pounds, and we have Japanese yen. So dollars, euros, pounds, and Japanese yen. So these are the four liquid currencies which are accepted by every country. Now, since our country's currency is not a liquid currency, to do trade with other countries, definitely we need to maintain some reserve of liquid currencies. I'm repeating the statement. Since our currency is not a liquid currency, if we have to do trade with other countries, we need to maintain a reserve of these liquid currencies, and such reserve which we maintain is also called as forex reserve. Such reserve which we maintain is also called as forex reserve. So this forex reserve, US need not maintain forex reserve because US currency is an accepted currency. US dollar itself is an accepted entity. Okay, so since Indian rupee is not accepted, if you want to do trade, you have to maintain reserve, which we are calling it as forex reserve. Okay, so this forex reserve in India is maintained by this institution called RBI. Forex reserve in India is maintained by this institution called RBI, or we call it as the Reserve Bank of India. So Reserve Bank of India is going to maintain something called as forex reserve. So these are simple basics. Okay, so Reserve Bank of India maintains something called as the forex reserve. It holds the forex reserve. And we see in newspapers that India's forex reserve has touched $460 billion plus. $460 billion plus. Earlier, we had problems in 1990s. I didn't touch 1990s, still we are only in 1969 now. So in 1990, India faced something called as an economic crisis. And the main reason for facing that economic crisis was we did not have this forex reserve. This forex reserve completely depleted. We had only forex reserve that is sufficient for doing trade for 15 days. And that is the reason we faced a crisis, a financial crisis in 1991. But similar crisis, financial crisis, India may not face today. Though our economy is going down because of COVID, GDP went negative. So we are not going to face a similar kind of financial crisis now because we have sufficient forex reserve. Okay, so this is something which we have to understand. And this forex reserve is under the control of this institution called RBI. I hope till here things are clear. So I'll try to link up from here. It's little conceptual. So easy only, just try to concentrate. Okay, so when I'm referring to forex reserve, today in basics class, we'll touch few only. So forex reserve constitutes certain components. It has certain components. There are four major components. One is you have these foreign currency assets. Like we have something like the four major currencies, the four major liquid currencies which we are talking about, that is dollars, euros, pounds, and Japanese yen, which you maintain, which RBI is going to maintain. Okay, then we also have gold. See, remember, gold is seen as hard currency. Gold is seen as hard currency. So when I'm referring to hard currency, it means it is accepted by everybody. It is as liquid as the foreign currencies. So that is the reason whenever there is a financial crisis, there is some problem, we go and pledge gold. We go and pledge gold in other countries and we take loan in the form of dollars. So this is what we do. So gold is also part of Forex reserve. Tomorrow something wrong happens to dollars. There is a threat that the dollar value is going down. Value and all I'll discuss now just in 2 minutes. So if dollar is not stable, if pounds are not stable, so our RBI or Indian government basically, or RBI may depend more on gold. It may procure more gold and it can stock this gold because gold can be exchanged anytime and acceptability of gold is high. It is a kind of a liquid currency and therefore it is called as a hard currency. So gold is also part of our Forex reserve. I hope it is clear till here. So one is the four major currencies. Two, we have the gold. Now, second question to you all here, one important question. Why is it that there is so much of demand for gold in India? The next question here is, why is it that there is so much of demand for gold in India? Now, I want your answers right in the chat. Okay, so why we have so much of demand for gold in India? Craze, jewelry, production, tradition. So here one is, remember, I'm using the word tradition. Okay, you have seen some marriages, especially the South Indian marriages, Keralite marriages, the girl will be drooping with gold. Okay, so gold is part of our tradition. Okay, we hold gold as part of our tradition. The richest gods in India found them in the form of gold. Okay, so tradition is something very important aspect. Another important reason for so much of demand for gold, nobody has mentioned, for future is okay. Another important aspect is movement of black money. Black money. See here, whenever a bureaucrat or whenever a politician, whenever a businessman is caught for, especially government officers being caught with respect to corruption, what do you find in their house? You find gold biscuits, okay, gold ornaments and land documents. So they try to maintain their black money in the form of gold, silver, and these kind of land documents, Binami documents. Now, what is that? Why? So when Modi ji has announced demonetization, okay, demonetization, 500 and 1000 rupee notes were pushed off. When demonetization was announced, on that day, gold shops were running till morning 5:30, and they were ready to accept these 500 and 1000 rupees notes and give them bills, post-dated bills. That means it is something like they're giving bills in something like as if you purchased the gold 6 months back and 5 months back. So one understanding here is, more is the black money movement, more would be the demand for black assets like gold, silver, etc. So that is also one more important reason for demand for gold in countries like India. Okay, third reason, okay, I'm using a word here called inflation. Now, word here is inflation. Now, what is this inflation? So inflation is increase in prices. I'm using the word here, inflation. Inflation means increase in prices. Always remember, whenever there is inflation or whenever there is high inflation, remember, value of money is going to reduce. Whenever there is going to be inflation, value of money is going to reduce. That means, suppose a particular pen, suppose this pen is costing 500 rupees today, and after 6 months, the same pen is costing 1000 rupees. Increase in price, inflation. That means whatever I can buy for 1000 rupees after 6 months is same as what I can buy for 500 today. Simple logic here. So my 1000 rupees after 6 months is equal to 500 rupees today. It means because of inflation, value of money has reduced. Value of money has reduced. So if you are holding cash, especially during inflation, it is going to be a wrong strategy. Whenever the prices are increasing in the market, there is no point in holding raw cash because the value of cash is going to reduce. Because the value of cash is going to decrease. Okay, so that is the reason. What you have to understand is, whenever you are making investments, also some people push their money into bank accounts, right? You put your money into savings bank account. Okay, now when you're putting money into savings bank account, you are offered an interest rate of 3.5 to 4% maximum. You're getting an interest of 4%. But suppose outside inflation is increasing at 6%. Inflation rate increase in prices is 6%. So you're putting 100 rupees in bank. Okay, outside inflation rate is 6%, but you are getting interest of only 4%. It means you are making a loss, in fact. Okay, so because if you take this inflation into consideration, you are not getting anything. In fact, you are getting minus 2%. So prices are increasing at a faster pace, but the interest rate which you are getting, this is a scenario in the banking system presently. So that is the reason we have to look into other areas of investment which will give you returns at least more than the inflation rate. If the price rate, same with respect to salaries, if your salary hikes are at a rate of 3%, 2%, but the inflation rate in the economy is 8%, that means there's no point in getting such hikes also. It means in reality, you did not get a hike in your salary. Okay, so therefore, whenever high inflation is there, people tend to, it is better that you buy gold. It is better that you hold gold rather than holding cash. Because though price of gold increases, the demand for gold is not going to reduce suddenly. Gold has its own demand. So that means whenever inflation is high in the economy, that is the prices are increasing in the economy, okay, companies tend to buy more gold because gold's impact on with respect to inflation is less. So I'm going to use a word here. Okay, hedging. Hedging. Okay. Lakshmikant has written yesterday's news about inflation. Okay, so somebody has answered 6.2%. Okay, fine. First of all, I made it very clear yesterday also. First of all, get the basics right if you are freshers. If you are repeaters, then the style of the class will be different. This is for a freshers class. This is a basics class. Okay, so this 6% inflation or the 6.2% inflation or how is inflation measured? Is it CPI index? Is it WPI index? Is not our discussion today. Okay, our discussion is only to understand the words in the process of evolution of the Indian economy. Remember this one. We are only sticking to that area. Okay, where we are going to understand some keywords in the form of story and try to interlink it to the current aspects later. This is what we are doing now. Okay, so please keep that in mind because some students are new. I don't know how many of your freshers and how many of your repeaters, but if you're pushing those numbers, if somebody gets confused, so that is the reason I wanted to mention. Okay, fine. So here I'm using a word here called hedging. Okay, so hedging, the word hedging means avoiding risk. The word hedging here means avoiding risk. So what is this avoiding risk? Avoiding risk means whenever inflation is there is a risk associated with respect to whenever there is inflation in the economy, there is a risk that the value of money can go down. Okay, so therefore, to hedge this risk related to inflation, hedging related to inflation, that means you want to avoid risk. Hedging means what? Avoiding risk. Whenever you want to avoid risk with respect to inflation, okay, we generally tend to buy gold. So gold is purchased to hedge risk with respect to inflation. That means you're trying to avoid risk with respect to inflation. Inflation is increasing, value of money is going down. It's a risk associated with inflation. You want to hedge this risk. That is what I wanted to make it clear. One more point here. Hedging means avoiding risk. You want to avoid that risk. So by buying gold also, you can avoid that risk to some extent. So another word which I wanted to push here is hedging. Okay, so one is tradition, another is circulation of black money. Okay, third is hedging risk associated with inflation. Fourth is gold is a liquid currency, hard currency. So gold is hard currency. That means it's liquid, its liquidity is high. Tomorrow, if I hold gold, whenever in crisis, I can put it in Muthoot Finance and take loan. So that liquidity aspect is always there with respect to gold. So its liquidity is high, and therefore also there is demand for gold. So these are the reasons why there is demand for gold. Just, is it clear? Now, I said our foreign forex reserve constitutes, one is the 4 major currencies, 2 we have gold, okay, and we have discussed something like what are the reasons for so much of demand for gold in India, okay, and 3 we also have something called as SDRs. Okay, the third component of forex reserve is SDR. Okay, special drawing rights, SDR. Now these are some currencies, or these are currency representations issued by a bank called IMF. Don't worry much about it in the basics class. In the IMF class, we can discuss it in detail. So special drawing rights are a kind of paper currencies. It's kind of an entity. It's a representation of currency issued by an entity called IMF. IMF is a bank. International Monetary Fund. So after the Second World War, what happened was the developed economies were not doing well. Okay, somebody is saying, can I repeat? I lost network connection. Okay, so I'll come to that. Okay, so after the Second World War, the developed economies were not doing well. They were routed because of war. So to revive these economies which were routed because of war, there was a conference that was called as the Bretton Woods Conference. Okay, so there was a conference that was held called as the Bretton Woods Conference, which was held in US. And based on this Bretton Woods Conference, they decided to push some institutions, like one is World Bank. They wanted to come up with this institution called World Bank. So to help all those countries to restructure all those countries which were affected, they suggested one more institution called IMF. IMF is what? International Monetary Fund. Okay, it's a bank. IMF's function is mainly to pull out countries from financial crisis. So those countries which are facing economic crisis, those countries which are facing financial crisis, so these countries will be, IMF is going to pull these countries out of this crisis. Okay, and the third entity which they decided that time was ITO, International Trade Organization, trade. But this organization did not come into existence. Don't worry much about this. ITO did not come into existence. It deals with trade. Okay, so that means after the Second World War, to revive those economies which were routed because of war, a conference called a Bretton Woods Conference was held. And this Bretton Woods Conference has come up with suggesting certain institutions to be set up to revive the global economy. And two institutions, famous institutions which came out because of Bretton Woods Conference, one is the World Bank Okay, so International Bank for you have in this World Bank, you have different entities. You have World Bank Group and World Bank. As of now, you just try to understand that. Okay, so World Bank's primary function is to reconstruct those economies which are affected, reconstruct those countries which were affected during the Second World War. IMF, International Monetary Fund, mainly deals with pulling out countries from economic crisis. So these two, that is, one is World Bank, another one is IMF. These two institutions are also called as the Bretton Woods twins, because they are formed because of this conference called Bretton Woods. So they're also called as the Bretton Woods twins. Okay, so in 1970s, IMF institution has issued these entities called SDRs, which are liquid entities. Okay, so who issues SDRs? Special drawing rights. They are issued. Voice is not clear. Is the voice clear? Clear. Okay, so voice is clear means it's your network problem. Okay, fine. Okay. Okay. So I was okay. During economic crisis, IMF is going to help countries. IMF is going to help countries to pull these countries from economic crisis. Okay, and these two entities called World Bank and IMF are called as Bretton Woods twins. Bretton Woods twins. Okay, so now during 1970s, there was too much of demand for dollars. Okay, and this story is not in the basics class, but you wanted to have one more alternative to these currencies like dollars, euros, and pounds. And therefore, IMF has come up with this entity called SDRs. SDRs are issued by IMF. So this SDR paper, this value of SDR will be decided based on the values of 5 major currencies. The value of SDR will be decided by the value of 5 major currencies. Obviously, dollar, euros, pounds, Japanese yen, and along with these 4, we have the Chinese currency, that is Chinese renminbi. So we also have Chinese currency, that is Chinese renminbi. Okay, so that means here we have 5 major currencies which are going to decide the valuation of SDR. So SDR is also part of our Forex reserve. Okay, so in the basics class, we are only going to decide on or discuss only 3 components of Forex. We're only going to discuss only 3 components of Forex. Okay, so but there are 4 components of our Forex reserve. Okay, so one is we have the 4 major currencies as we have discussed. We have gold as we have discussed. Okay, and then we have SDRs. Okay, so SDRs, and then we have the reserve Tranche position. Reserve Tranche position, we call it as the RTP. Reserve Tranche position is RTP, Reserve Tranche position. Okay, so RTP. So 4 major components of Forex reserve. Okay, so one is we have the 4 major currencies, followed by gold, followed by SDRs. These are the 3 entities. And then we have the RTP, that is the Reserve Tranche position. Okay, so these are the 4 components of Forex reserve. 4 components of Forex reserve. Now is the voice clear? No. Is Okay, okay. 1 second. So there's some problem. Somebody is saying, give me 1 second. Let me change the, I don't know whether it is problem from your side or here. Now is it okay? My voice is clear. Okay. For you all, it is clear. That means it's not from my side. Okay, fine. Mike. Okay, okay. Fine, fine, fine. So somebody's asking, sir, how about the fourth one? Huh? The fourth one is, see, don't worry. That is basically too early for us in the basics class. So I've written it. This is the RTP, reserve trunk key position. So I'll just explain in simple words. Our representation in IMF, want to become a member of IMF. Okay, so we represent, there is something called as quota. Quota concept is there in IMF, International Monetary Fund. So that's not our discussion now. That means there is some amount of fund which we have to put in IMF. Okay, and that generally we represent in the form of SDRs. Okay, so this RT is something like reserve trunk key position is, suppose India's representation in IMF quota, which we can use whenever we want, So that is how it's a simple way of understanding. So to next time I will discuss like how it happens, like what they do. But reserve trunk key position is India's representation in IMF. Okay, you have to push some money into IMF, you push some dollars into IMF, which you can use whenever you want. Okay, so that is also a forex, that is also part of our forex reserve. Okay, so 4 major components of forex. Now one more most important aspect which we have to discuss now is this area of depreciation and devaluation of currency. Let's try to understand this. Okay, so the two new words here, once forex is clear. Okay, so one is depreciation, another one is devaluation. Okay. Okay. Now, what does this picture, what do you notice from this picture? You can put it in the chat. What do you notice from this picture? I'm audible. What do you notice from this picture? What is that? Demand for dollar to study abroad. Okay, okay, okay. Downfall of rupee. Here, rupee, see this? Rupee value is going down. What is that? I will explain now. Rupee value, you can see this, it's going down. Means foreign education is going to become costly. Foreign trips is going to become costly. This is what is your observation here. You can see buying foreign assets, foreign trips, foreign education is going to become costly if rupee is going to go down. Now, this is something which you have to understand. It's not high cost of living. It is middle class people can touch these. Middle class people cannot touch. Okay, fine. Middle class. So it's not only middle class, for everybody, it is going to become costly. Okay, but the effect would be high on the middle class. Yes. So here, now when I'm talking about depreciation and devaluation, let's try to understand what I'm saying. Okay. So once that picture is clear, you've understood the picture. So suppose I'm writing, let's say $1 is equal to, it's a hypothetical example, 50 rupees. This is case 1. Okay. Second case is $1 is equal to 100 rupees. Okay. Now question to you all is, where Indian rupee is stronger, in case 1 or case 2? Where Indian rupee is strong. Okay, so obviously we can understand here that Indian rupee is strong, rupee value is stronger, obviously in case 1. Okay, rupee value is stronger in case 1. Simple. Okay, so that means for 50 rupees, I am able to buy dollar in case 1. But to buy the same dollar, I have to pay 100 rupees in case 2. This is what is understanding. That means moving from case 1 to case 2, moving from case 1 to case 2, what is happening is rupee value is going to decrease. Everybody, I hope you're able to follow. Moving from case 1 to case 2, rupee value is reducing and dollar value is increasing. I'm making it very clear here. Moving from case 1 to case 2, rupee value is reducing and dollar value is increasing. Is that clear, everybody? So that can be noticed. This is clear for everyone. Okay, any doubt here? No, everybody, yes, everybody has understood. Now, that means moving from first case to second case, rupee has become weaker and dollar has become stronger. Rupee weak, dollar strong. That is clear. Now, if rupee becomes weaker, do you think there will be any benefits? If rupee becomes weaker, do you think there will be any benefits? Now, this is one more question. Put it in the chat. If rupee becomes weaker, will there be any benefits for us? Yes. Forex reserve, more export, IT industry has got benefits. Yes. Now see, if rupee value depreciates, now I'm using the word here, I'm using the word depreciation. It is nothing but fall in value of rupee. Fall in value of rupee. It is nothing but depreciation of rupee. If rupee value is going to depreciate, if there is fall in this value of rupee, IT industry will flourish, obviously, because they are going to make payments in dollars. They are going to make payments in dollars. So their salaries will become cheaper. Easily they can pay salaries, isn't it? $1 is 100, means it is good for IT industry because they can pay salaries easily in countries like India. Okay, so IT industry is going to benefit. Okay, then which industry is going to suffer? IT industry is benefiting. Very good. Then are there any industries which are going to suffer because of this rupee value fall? Yes. Oil industries are definitely going to suffer because we are going to import oil. Now we'll try to understand this. Because we are going to import oil. So you're importing oil, so oil industries will suffer. So why it will happen? Let's try to understand this. Okay, so if we see, if rupee value is depreciating, or if rupee value is decreasing, or rupee value is falling, okay, what will happen to exports and what will happen to imports? Let's try to understand it. Devalued is, give me some time. I'll explain the difference between depreciation and devaluation. Okay, so if rupee value is reducing or if rupee value depreciates, okay, so rupee value is falling. Let's take an example. Let's say this pen is manufactured in India. This pen is manufactured in India and the cost of the pen is 100 rupees. Okay, now I want to sell this pen to US. I want to export this pen to US. This is what I want to do. Now this pen is 100 rupees. Now case $1 is 50 rupees. This is the case 1. And I want to sell this pen to US. How much are they going to pay me? Okay, I'm selling this pen to US. Okay, so when $1 is 50, so they will be paying me how much? They are going to pay me $2. They're going to pay me $2. Simple. Okay, so $2, they are going to pay me $2 in this case. Now the same thing, if you try to understand, if the same example, if the pen cost is 100 rupees, I want to sell this pen to US. Okay, But now $1 is second case. $1 is 100 rupees. Now, how much are they going to pay me if $1 is 100? Now, $1 is 100. They are going to pay me only $1. Everybody is able to get this. They're going to pay me $1. Is this clear for everybody? Okay, is this clear for everybody? So what I did was $1. Okay, so $1 is equal to $1 is equal to 50. They're going to pay me $2. If $1 is 100, they're going to pay me only $1. That means what has happened here, if my rupee value has depreciated from $1 to is equal to 50 to $1 is 100, what has happened here is my export has become what? Exports have become cheaper. What has happened? My exports have become cheaper. When my rupee value has depreciated, my exports have become cheaper. They paid me $2. Now they're paying me only $1. Now this export becoming cheaper because of rupee value depreciation is beneficial or is it negative for us? I expected this answer only. It's not negative. See here, now listen very carefully. We are competing in the international market. It is not that you are only selling this pen. China can sell this pen. South Korea can sell this pen. Okay, and several other countries can sell this pen. Okay, so therefore, if your exports are going to become cheaper in the market, you are going to be more competitive in the economy, in the international market. You're going to be more competitive. You can sell more pens. Now, this is the logic you should understand. Don't think earlier I was getting $2. Now I'm getting only $1. But the observation is when the rupee value depreciated, exports became cheaper. When exports become cheaper, you're becoming more competitive in the international market. You can sell more pens in the international market. So when you can sell more pens in the international market, our exports will increase in the international market, India's exports. Now, this is one of the main reasons why Chinese products are cheap. One of the reasons why China keeps its currency, used to keep its currency value, its yuan value so low to make its exports cheap and to flood global markets with Chinese products. It is killing other countries' products with its cheap exports. This is one of the reasons, this is not the only reason why Chinese exports have flooded across the globe. See, China was trying to reduce its currency value wantedly, make its exports cheaper, and flood global economies with its exports. US was also not happy with respect to China reducing its currency value and trying to flood with its products. And US companies or US products are getting. Today, if you observe Chinese toys, okay, flood across India, Chinese phones, electrical items, everything is made in China. One is they're good in manufacturing, but that alone is not the reason. Many other factors are there. And one of the important factors is they were trying to reduce the value of their currency to make their products cheap and flood in the global markets and occupy the global economy. China is very today there is no other country in the world which can stand in front of China, because Chinese always have a long-term vision. Chinese always have a long-term vision and they work for that vision. When they're working for that vision, they only work for that vision. They won't think about small aspects in between. And that is how China can even, China is in fact is almost, I can say it is almost crossed US. Okay, so this is something which you should understand. So now, of course, this is a negative aspect of it in the sense they are trying to, what is China trying to do there? China was trying to devalue. Now here, devaluation, both depreciation and devaluation both mean reduction in value of currency. Currency value is coming down. So currency value is coming down with respect to what? With respect to another currency, another strong currency. In this case, that another strong currency is nothing but dollar. In this case, that another strong currency, nothing but dollar. Okay, now undo. 1 second. Okay, fine. I hope that example is clear, and then I have shown you this. Okay, so now let's try to understand the difference between depreciation and devaluation. So here what we have understood is fall in value of currency. That is clear. I took the two examples. $1 is 50 and $1 is 100. So moving from $1 is 50 to $1 is 100 means rupee value is reducing, or there is depreciation of rupee value, or you can use the word devaluation. Let's try to understand the difference in another 1 minute. Okay, so now you can see this diagram here, dollar becoming stronger and dollar being pushed down, dollar pushing the rupee down. Okay, and this rupee value fall is making things costlier for foreign education, going to MS. Okay, you want to go on a foreign tour, world tour, your foreign tour is going to become costly. All that is basically because the rupee value is falling. But there can be certain industries like software which can benefit. Software exports, India is good with respect to software service exports, and so our software exports can become cheaper. We have tried to understand that. Okay, so the software service exports are going to become cheaper, and therefore we are going to benefit because of software service exports. Now, along with that, there are, of course, there is this problem of rupee fall. I'm using the word problem because in India's case, we have negatives more than benefits. For example, all those industries which are using oil as raw material, India imports more than 80% of its oil from other countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran. So we depend on oil imports. It means when rupee value depreciates, what we are seeing is exports are becoming cheaper. Rupee value is depreciating means our exports are becoming cheap. But at the same time, what will happen to imports? Imports are going to become costly. So when $1 is 100, when I'm buying oil, I have to convert 100 rupees into dollars and make payments. And therefore, my rupee value depreciation makes imports costly. So our raw material cost is going to increase, and oil, petrol and diesel is going to become costly. Oil is going to become costly means you will have to face the problems of inflation. Inflation, remember inflation? Inflation is increase in prices. Now, oil is becoming costly means transportation becomes costly. So if transportation becomes costly means food also becomes costly. So food inflation also. Why? Because transportation cost. So it leads to inflationary effect. Remember, petrol and diesel is not an economic good. It is also not only an economic good, but it is also a political good. Okay, government's election results also depend on oil and food prices. And therefore, to handle this inflation with respect to oil and food, what will government try to do? Government will try to spend more money from its pocket. Government will try to make this oil cheap, food cheaper. So government will try to increase money or increase subsidy. So government will spend money from its pocket. So government is going to increase subsidy. So government is going to spend money from its pocket. Okay. So if government is spending money from its pocket, it means for the government's expenditure is going to increase. That is what is happening during Corona. So government's expenditure has increased. So government cannot spend on infrastructure now. Actually, government has to spend more on infrastructure. See, when you talk about subsidy also, There are different types of subsidies, as I mentioned yesterday. Subsidies which will teach you how to fish, and subsidies will give you fish. Now, most of the government subsidies are giving you fish. They give you 1 rupee rice and 2 rupees wheat, and these kind of subsidies for a short-term political gain. Okay, but government's expenditure is going to increase. Now, government cannot spend more money on road, rail, connectivities. You cannot spend money on infrastructure because you are spending more on handling these prices. So automatically, it will affect the growth, overall growth of the country. Now, this is a big challenge for the government also. So that means oil industries will become costly. And along with that, India's manufacturing sector also got affected because of rupee value depreciation. India's manufacturing sector. Why India's manufacturing sector got affected is, it's not that our manufacturing exports increase, but rather most of our Indian industries, we use imported raw material for production. Our manufacturing industries use imported raw material. We buy raw material from other countries. So imported raw material we are using for production. So when you're using imported raw material, okay, so this raw material cost is increasing. This raw material cost is going up, imported raw material. So when raw material cost is going to increase for the manufacturing industries, our cost of production, we are producing products, no, raw material cost will increase because rupee value depreciated, imports have become costly, means our raw material imports for the manufacturing industry are becoming costly. It means our cost of production is going to increase. So cost of production is going to increase means the product cost is also going to increase. So the products are going to become costly, inflation. So manufacturing sector also got affected because of rupee value fall. I think you got a fair idea. So what happens with rupee value fall? Okay. Okay. So now there is a slight difference between depreciation and devaluation. Okay. If you see this diagram, you can see rupee value appreciation, rupee value depreciation, and dollar is pressing rupee down here. Now, what is this slight difference between depreciation and devaluation? So this is what we'll try to understand now. Okay, so if the currency value is falling because of market fundamentals, if currency value is falling because of market, forces of market means forces of demand and supply. If currency value is reducing because of forces of market, then we call it as depreciation. I'll explain now with an example, you will understand depreciation. But if government wantedly decides that, let's say government wantedly decided, forget about market, from tomorrow $1 is equal to 100 rupees. Government has decided, wantedly reduce the value of currency. Like China used to do, and India also has done it. First time we devalued in 1966. And again, after 1991, we devalued our currency. So devaluation means government is wantedly reducing the value of currency. Devaluation means government is wantedly reducing the value of currency to make exports cheaper and to make imports costly. So that is basically devaluation. This is the difference between depreciation and devaluation. So, sir, what is this market fundamentals? Market fundamentals is very simple. For example, let's say you have dollars. Modi ji has taken a decision. Let's say he decided that we will allow more foreign investment into India. It's a government decision. Now, government said, okay, fine, we'll liberalize Indian economy so that more dollars, more companies like Amazon can come into India, more companies like Tesla can come into India, okay, and they can do business in India. What is going to happen? More foreign investment is moving into India. I'm not using the word FDI, foreign direct investment, FI, because we have not touched 1991 still. Okay, so foreign investment is moving into the country. So when foreign investment is moving into the country, it means more dollars are moving into the country. Simple logic. Dollar supply in India is going to increase. Simple. More dollars are moving into the country. Okay, so when more dollars are moving into the country, okay, simple logic is there is a market where you can buy currencies, which is called as the forex market. So in the share market, you have shares being traded. Share being traded means buying and selling of shares. Similarly, in the forex market, we have currencies being traded. You want to buy dollars, you can buy by giving rupees. You want to buy euros, you can buy. So when dollar supply in India increases, when dollar supply in India increases, automatically in the forex market, what will happen is demand for dollar is going to be less. Anything in abundance, demand is less. Simple logic, no? Why there is so much of demand for IAS? Because every house you don't have an IAS officer like an engineer in South India. Simple logic. Okay, so therefore, everything in life, everything in economics runs based on demand and supply. Everything runs based on demand and supply. Simple logic. Now there's more demand, more supply of dollars because more foreign investment moved in. So demand for dollars is less. If demand for dollar is less, I will pay less rupees or more rupees to buy the dollar. Since demand, network problem, repeat the last sentence. Mandirana. Is it internet issue or mic? Okay. So if supply of dollars is increasing, okay, so demand for dollars is going to be less. Okay, so more dollars. If demand for dollar is less in the forex market, are we going to pay less rupees or more rupees to buy the dollar? So since demand is less, we have to, it is like we will be paying less rupees to buy the dollar. No demand, so I'll be paying less rupees to buy the dollar. If I'm paying less rupees to buy the dollar, it means early, it is the first case, like $1 is equal to 50, right? Instead of 100. I'm paying less rupees to buy the dollar. Okay, less rupees to buy the dollar. It is $1 is equal to 50 and not $1 is equal to 100. Okay, so less rupees to buy the dollar. Okay, so $1 is equal to 50. That means what is happening to rupee value here? Rupee value has appreciated. Rupee value has increased. $1 is 50 means there is appreciation of rupee value. Everybody, I hope you are able to follow. There is appreciation of rupee value. Rupee value is appreciated. And was it because of government's decision? No, it is because of market fundamentals. Because of why I'm saying it is fundamentals, it is because of a more dollars, more foreign investment moving into the country. Okay, so I think till here everybody has understood. Now take one more case here. Suppose there is a situation where earlier our Kasab and friends have attacked Mumbai. So whenever you have terrorist attacks, terrorist has attacked Mumbai because it is the financial hub. So if you can hit the economy of the country, it is you can hit the country on a large scale. Suppose if coronavirus is basically man-made, or if China has wantedly designed it, okay, even dollars in high value, but why USA? US cases, see, US case is completely different. US case is complete. How can you compare US with India? You cannot compare. I'm not saying US is competitive, or we are not in a position to compare with China also as of now. Okay, so forget about US. The products which they sell, the technology which they have, Okay, if you want to compare US with India, I'll give you one small example to understand. Can you name some mobile companies which are purely Indian? So I'll tell you. I'll give you what is like. Don't worry. Keep patriotism aside and let's be practical now. Can you give me some mobile phone companies which are Indian, purely Indian? Not Jio. Jio is a network now. Not taking Jio now. Okay. Micromax. Okay. Samsung is not Indian, ma. Samsung, South Korea. Lava, Cellcon, Micromax. Okay. Kbon. How many of you are using these mobiles? How many of you are using this mobile? Okay, fine, fantastic, good. Now one more question. Name pure Indian car brands. Name pure Indian car brands. Ambassador. Ambassador is not car brand, it's a car. Okay, it's like a car company. Okay, now see Tata. Okay. See Maruti Suzuki, right? It's Maruti Suzuki. Suzuki is from Japan. You need the technology of Japan. Tata is using Italian engines. Don't think Jaguars and all. Earlier Tata Indica, you know the noise it used to make. Okay, Hyundai is not ours. Hyundai is South Korea. Okay, so Hyundai is South Korea. Fiat engine, they're using Fiat engine. Tatas are using Fiat engine. Even today, we are so bad in R&D that you're thinking so much. Yeah, Force Motors. Okay, you're thinking so much to identify car brands. Now, if you try to identify Mahindra Renault, you need collaboration from Renault. Remember this. Renault is not an Indian company. Why is it in Mahindra Renault then? That means you need technology from other countries. So we are very bad in research and development. We are very bad in technology. Suppose when we talk about cycles also, you have these cycles from Scotland, etc. There's 8 years of R&D that is done before launching a cycle. In India, cycle is not about 2 tires and a link. Oh, that's a bicycle. No. There's a lot of R&D done in terms of weight, in terms of swift, the way you drive, the back position, everything. In India, we are not into R&D. Now compare Apple with Micromax. Compare Apple with Micromax. Now, how do you compare US competitiveness with India? It's not investment. It's not dollar. We stand nowhere. Keep patriotism aside. I told you before. What is this, sir? No. Mera Desh Mahan. Okay. Don't take any credit from history. Now, as of now, I only asked you like, okay. So can you give me, so how do you compare innovation of Apple with that Micromax? OnePlus Chinese mobile offers so much of value at such a low price. Where are we in manufacturing? India is nowhere in manufacturing. India is very bad in research and development. Whenever crisis comes, you have to beg other countries for vaccines. This is our position. This is our situation. What we have, see, now we are trying to slowly do something, and you have COVID now. Okay, and we are in a situation where we are trying to do something, but R&D, scientists spending on science and technology is very, very limited in our country. There was 9 years of research that has been done for Apple. Remember that Apple iPhone, which you're talking about, it is not entrepreneur skill. It is R&D skill. So if you talk about Steve Jobs is more an engineer rather than a businessman. Elon Musk is more an engineer, kind of a scientist rather than a businessman. When your product is so good like Tesla, you don't need advertising. Do you find Apple ads coming up in our television? Buy this Apple, or you have some movie star clicking Apple. Ranveer Singh coming and clipping like Oppo, Oppo phone. Not needed. Products are different. Product quality is good. So there's no comparison. We stand nowhere. So if product is so good, why is it so good? Because of innovation. How did you get that innovation? You have spent years on R&D. Every sector, you don't have research and development. You want to sell a cheap product. You're satisfied with any quality. You want to sell it. That's all. Now, that is how we operate. That is how we operate. Of course, I'm not denying the fact that we are economically, we have a lot of all that. Keep it aside and just try to understand that. So one aspect, so if you want to compete with US, if you want, forget about US, if you want to compete with China, we cannot compete with China in manufacturing. Though you depreciate our rupee value, devalue our currency, Indian manufacturing products cannot compete in the international market with Chinese products. Okay, number one. Number two, that is the reason when Modi ji was saying, make in India, Modi ji cannot understand even a single bit of economics. Okay, he cannot understand even a single bit of economics. And mostly what happens when you're in power, when you're in the power center, whoever is coming there will try to appease Modi ji. That's all. No, you are like this, you know everything, you can do everything. What you can do? Nothing you can do. Unless economics is a specialization, science and technology is a specialization. Okay, everything, it's not about talking and giving speeches. That is different. That is also specialization. You are specialized in that. You're not specialized in everything. So probably if you see India's, you don't have a very good proper economics. That is why you launched demonetization. It's an utter failure. GST had n number of problems. Okay, so unless and until you understand economics properly and take up economic policies, then only you will be successful. Okay, fine. Now, okay, this is about the government. Okay, we do only assembling in India. Yeah, in assembling also we are not good. Okay, if you see Chinese, tomorrow the era of artificial intelligence comes in. Okay, robo, Rajnikant is far better in assembling. So all these assembling jobs will be replaced tomorrow. In the wake of artificial intelligence, job losses will be maximum in India, not in US. Because US jobs are R&D related. Brains can't be replaced, but manual work can be replaced. Robos can assemble things well. So if you observe, if you open an iPhone and you open the battery of the iPhone, you can see, what do you see? R&D in California, assembled in China. Assembling China and India, R&D in California. That is the situation. And tomorrow, all these assembling jobs, artificial intelligence, robotics, all these jobs are gone. Now this youth population, which you are talking about by 2030, 2040, which is the strongest demography which we want to use, will be jobless and starving. Unless and until you're able to create good jobs which they can take. This is the biggest challenge which India has to face in another 10 to 15 years. That is job creation, which cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. Tomorrow, diagnostics centers will be replaced. That is also done by artificial intelligence only. You cannot depend like, okay, better than the doctor, the system will detect the disease properly. Our doctors experiment. When you say something wrong, again, they will feel bad. That's a different thing. Okay, you are all gods, but at the same time, what I'm talking about is, now there is some procedure, if you see. So these procedures have to be followed. Okay, fine. So China decreases its currency value, but it imports more different parts. China is some extent self-sufficient. It manages. It's not so much dependent on imports alone. Okay, so that is the thing of China. Okay. Now, because of market, also, suppose how can rupee value depreciate? Now, this is something. So if you see, if there is this Kasab attacking Mumbai, tomorrow similar kind of attack happens again. All these foreign investors who have invested in Indian stock market, what they will decide, oh, India is not a safe country. Anybody interested? I'll give them, suppose somebody says, government says, we'll give you 2 crores, please go and do business. We'll give you 5 crores, please go and do business in Afghanistan, Pakistan border. Okay. Or please go do business in Palestine, Gaza. Will anybody go and do business there? No. So one of the most important aspects for doing business is political stability and security. So whenever there is this terrorist attack, etc., why do they do it in Mumbai is, there will be a fear in the investor's mind. So instead of investing in India, why don't we invest in some other country which is more safer? So what they will do, there will be flight of capital. So whenever such things happen, suddenly you will find that our stock market is going to fall. Okay, stock market is going to fall. Why? Because all these investors who have invested in Indian stock market, they will say, okay, fine, India is not safe. So they will start moving out of India. So this moving out of India, I'm using a word here. I'm using the word called flight of capital. Okay, so if you see, Atmanirbhar Bharat does not mean don't use imports of China. Now, if you observe, see, no more Chinese products. Earlier, they were saying Zoom also was kind of Chinese. Zoom, first of all, is not Chinese. So don't use Zoom. First of all, then give me one more technology, Indian technology, which is as efficient as Zoom. You don't have. Okay, so the problem here is, if you're not using Chinese imports, you want to depend on Indian products. Your product cost is going to be more. You cannot compete with China in the international market. You should think of winning the game. It's not about not using Chinese products. That is not about Atmanirbhar Bharat. How do you become self-sufficient? Before becoming self-sufficient, you cannot take it to the ego. So first is you have to become self-sufficient, then only Atmanirbhar. You said Atmanirbhar Bharat and you want Pfizer to come and give you vaccine. Okay. Got the point, right? So this is, so quotations look good, but who will implement? Okay, now the problem is, now I think you have understood what I wanted to explain, and don't take it in the wrong way. This is how you should think. How India can beat China? How can India make its products cheaper? How can we assemble things better? Can we take any benefits possible from China? Use Chinese products, but we should become efficient. Okay. Now see, when something like that happens, there is flight of capital from India. There is flight of capital. So what is flight of capital? All these investors who have invested in stock markets, they start moving out of India. Now, when there's flight of capital in India, means dollars are moving out of the country. Simple logic, flight of capital, I'm using the word. So flight of capital means dollars are moving out of the country. So when dollars are moving out of the country, okay, dollars have moved out of the country, means dollar supply in India. What is happening to dollar supply is going to decrease. Now, if dollar supply is decreasing, then demand for dollar in India, what will happen? Will increase. If demand for dollar is increasing, I have to pay more rupees to buy the dollar. I'll pay more rupees to buy the dollar. Means what is happening to rupee value here? Rupee value is going to depreciate. So like this, rupee value is going to depreciate. Market fundamentals. Rupee value is going to depreciate. So like this, market fundamentals can affect the appreciation or depreciation of currency. That is depreciation. But suppose government decides, no, from tomorrow, $1 100. From tomorrow, $1 is going to be 100. Now, that is not depreciation. It's not because of demand and supply. It is not because of market fundamentals. It is because of a government's decision. It's because of RBI's decision. Okay, so that is devaluation. Devaluation of currency. Now, the problem is, okay, so when our government was talking about Make in India, heard of Make in India campaign, no? Make in India, make the products in India, sell it abroad. This was the logic of the government. This was the logic of Modi ji. It's right, make in India, make the product in India and sell the product abroad. That is what is Make in India campaign. Now, Raghuram Rajan, he said, first of all, this Make in India, making it in India, selling it abroad will not work now. So Raghuram Rajan was saying, make for India rather than make in India. Okay, so there's this conflict now, earlier RBI governor. So make in India, why there's a problem? Why Modi ji wants to make in India is basically to uplift our manufacturing. You're manufacturing the product, you want to create jobs in manufacturing. It's needed. But at the same time, selling it abroad means you're focusing on exports. What he was saying is you're trying to be another China. You want to be another China. You want to increase your exports. You want to depend on this. You want to be another China. And this is a wrong time to be another China, because the globe is thinking of protectionism. Because the globe is thinking of protection. The globe wants to protect their domestic market. They want to protect their own. So how, you know, earlier how Trump used to speak. The most psychic president ever seen. Okay, so US runs because of Indians and Chinese. Nobody else works hard there. Okay, so but the way he behaves in protectionism means you want to protect your domestic market. So when the globe is trying to protect their own market, then you cannot maximize on exports. First of all, we are not good in exports other than software. Manufacturing exports, if you do also, it's not so easy. Suppose our pulsars are there, our Pulsar motorcycles. So you'll find our pulsars in Bangladesh. You'll find our Pulsar motorcycles in Sri Lanka. Whatever you throw from India, Sri Lanka will catch. Okay, but sell it to US. Can you sell your pulsars to US? Okay, so that is the situation. Okay, so therefore, make in India rather than making it India and selling abroad. Make for India is something they were talking about. So now I think you've got the basic difference between depreciation of currency, devaluation of currency, and appreciation also. Appreciation of currency. Okay, so depreciation, devaluation, and appreciation of currency. Okay, fine. Till here, I think things are right. Now, before this, okay, so next is, suppose now from our class which we discussed, if trade deficit is increasing, what is trade deficit? Remember, gap between imports and exports. Now, trade deficit is gap between import and export. If trade deficit is increasing means this gap is increasing further. Imports are becoming more than export. Trade deficit is increasing. Now, what will be the impact on currency value? That is, sorry, I think I will write it here. What will be the impact on rupee value, and can it affect inflation? Now, can you form a link here? If trade deficit is going to increase, what is the impact on rupee value, and what would be the impact on inflation? Mic issue. So now trade deficit is increasing means more imports, import-export gap. More import than export means dollars are moving out of the country. Means dollar supply is less in India. Means demand for dollar will be more in India. If demand for dollar is more in India, I have to pay more rupees to buy the dollar. Means rupee value is going to decrease. Till there, it is clear. Okay, so there is a link. Now, if rupee value is going to depreciate, okay, my oil imports, my food imports will become costly. Oil will become costly, Okay, so once again, okay, so I'll explain. Oil is going to become costly, food is going to become costly. If these are going to become costly, prices are going to increase, then there will be inflation. Everybody, so here what I'm trying to say, if trade deficit is increasing, it means imports are going to be more than exports. Imports are going to be more. The gap between import and export is increasing. If import and export gap is increasing, it means more import means more dollars are moving out. You're importing a product, you're paying dollars. So more dollars are moving out, means dollar supply in the economy is going to be less. So demand for dollar will be more. If demand for dollar is more, I have to pay more rupees to buy the dollar. Paying more rupees means $1 is 50, $1 100. Paying more rupees means rupee value has depreciated. Rupee value depreciated. Now, if rupee value depreciates, my imports will become costly, isn't it? Exports will become cheaper, and my imports will become costly. So if imports become, and our most essential imports are what? Oil, food and fertilizer. Though they are costly, you have to buy them because these are necessary imports. So you're definitely going to buy them. Oil will become costly, food will become costly, fertilizer will become costly. That means inflation, prices will increase. Now, is it clear? Okay. So when these things are going to become costly, inflation is high, government will spend money from its pocket to reduce the prices. So government will increase their expenditure. Like COVID, government expenditure increased. So like that, government will spend more expenditure from its pocket. So if more expenditure is pushed from government side, government will also face deficit. Deficit means what? For the government gets money from something called as revenue. R is revenue. Revenue, how? Tax, we pay taxes, we pay fines. Okay, that is revenue. Similarly, government spends money, that is expenditure. Revenue is incoming money for the government. Expenditure is outgoing money for the government. Now, what will happen if expenditure is increasing? Expenditure is increasing means outgoing money for the government is going to be more than incoming money. So there will be deficit in the government's budget also, government's pocket also, there will be deficit. So if there is trade deficit increasing, it can put a hole in government's pocket. It can lead to deficit in the government's budget. So this is the understanding you should get from this explanation. Okay, so that means if oil is political food, so government gives subsidy, government pays money from its pocket, so automatically prices are going to, to reduce the prices, spending, government is spending means government's expenditure is increasing. But if revenues are not increasing and if expenditure is increasing, it will lead to deficit for the government. I'm not using fiscal deficit, all that, no complication, you just observe the links only. So government deficit will increase, means government's revenues will come down. This is the problem now currently. During COVID, what happened? Okay, people lost jobs, no income tax collections less. Corporates not interested in doing business, so corporate tax collections are going to be less. To encourage business, government reduced corporate tax rates to 22%, so collections reduced for the government. So revenues are not coming for the government, but health crisis, vaccine drive, government is spending money, means it is spending, outgoing is more, incoming is less, it is pushing a hole in government's pocket, COVID. And therefore, government will not release notifications for government jobs. Most of the state governments, people are crying, they're doing dharnas and all that. Why? Because first of all, state governments have no money. If you have cash only, no. You'll do recruitment, you'll do that, this. Everything is related to budget. Okay, so government's money, cash. Of course, along with budget, one is you want votes also. So, but unless and until you have money, how do you handle it? Okay, so this is the issue. Clear, I think. Okay, so if export and import is equal, it is called as balanced, but generally you will not find that. So export and import being equal. Okay, so balance, no issue. So it is part of trade basically. Trade is a small aspect in your BOP, balance of payment. No complication. We have not touched 1990s still. Trade is only one component of your external sector, external account, import, export. Now, one more question to you all. Remittances. What is this remittances? Suppose your brother, friend is staying abroad. Okay, brother, friend is staying abroad. Now they are sending money. Now, rupee value depreciation, what is the impact on the remittances? India gets maximum remittances from the Muslim nations. Okay, not from US, the oil producing nations. So if this oil producing countries are happy, only remittances will come into India, more remittances. Okay, now what is the impact on rupee value fall on remittances? See, remittance increases, FDI increase. No, remittance is not FDI. Remittances is money that is moving into families' accounts basically for your personal consumption. If Jeff Bezos wants to bring $200 billion into India, that is not remittance. He is bringing $200 billion for doing business. Suppose your brother is staying abroad, he is sending money to your family. That is remittance, personal remittance I'm talking about. So remittances will increase if the rupee value falls. Suppose $1 is 50. Now tomorrow I know $1 will become 60. If my brother wants to send money, I'll ask him, wait, let $1 become 70, then please send money so that I will get more money. Simple logic, no? So remittances will increase if the rupee value decreases. Okay, so remittances will increase if rupee value decreases. I want more money to be sent when $1 is 100. Simple logic. If he's sending $1, I want 100 rupees. Okay, so is this clear? Okay, so this is about some. Okay, so no much of graphs here. So I just wanted to show you one graph as part of our basics class. So one is the demand and demand graph. Okay, so Purna. Okay, so okay, now you see this demand. And what is this demand actually? Demand is not only your willingness to buy a product, but also ability to pay. I made this statement. And when we are talking about demand, today we can't discuss everything, but when we are talking about demand, there are different factors that can affect demand. Different factors that can affect demand. Okay. So what are the different factors that affect demand? One is obviously price is one important factor that affects demand. Two, income. If we have income only, there will be demand. So for example, if I take income, the same graph, if I take demand, quantity demanded on x-axis, one second. Okay, if I take quantity demanded on x-axis and income on y-axis, my graph will be like this. Okay, so income also, as the income increases, on a general note, demand should also increase. If the income increases, on a general note, demand should also increase. Okay, so we see this the regular demand graph here. Okay, so income also is one more factor. Of course, there are exceptions to demand graphs, but so if you see this graph, if I'm taking price and quantity demanded, it is going to be a rightward sloping graph. Okay, so basic rightward sloping graph. Why is it going to be a rightward sloping graph? Is if you can see, as the price is high, quantity demanded is less. When the price is less, quantity demanded is more. Okay, so this is a general aspect. That means there can be exceptions to this graph. Okay, so certain products are there where price is the factor for its demand. Okay. So status is the factor for its demand. Okay, so there are certain exceptions, but this is a regular demand graph which I'm talking about. Okay, what are the other factors which can affect demand? Income is there, price is there, then you have substitutes. Okay, substitutes. So coffee, tea. Okay, So if coffee prices increase, people can shift from coffee to tea. Okay, so if tea prices increase, people can shift from tea to. Then you have complementary. For example, if car prices decrease, then demand for petrol will be high because more cars sales. Okay, these are complementary. If car prices reduce, more sales of cars, then demand for petrol can be higher. Okay, so that means even substitutes, then also preferences. So like this, for this, all these graphs will be there. Later on we'll check that in the next few classes. So preference of individuals. For example, I prefer AC or ice creams in summer than winter. So based on people's preferences also, demand for product can change. Okay, so now the demand has gone down during lockdown. People's consumption has reduced because people's income have reduced, and also people are worried about third wave. So when you are worried about first wave, what happened after the first wave? When lockdown was pushed off, everybody started spending money. Okay, so after a kind of dip, suddenly people start spending money. That is, in the newspapers, you would have heard of this word called pent-up demand. Pent-up demand means you didn't have demand because of lockdown and all, and during the first wave lockdown, suddenly the government opened the economy, then people started spending more. Pent-up demand was high, so growth also was okay to some extent. But second wave, after the lockdown is gone, you can't expect pent-up demand to increase suddenly. Why? Because people are apprehensive about third wave. They expect that there may be a third wave that may come, and therefore they'll be very cautious in saving. They may think twice before spending money. So therefore, demand means again production. Production means again jobs. Everything is interlinked. So I just want you all to observe the basic graph, demand graph. That's all for today. We're not going to discuss all these graphs. We don't have that time now. So I think this is sufficient. Okay. And then one second. Okay, income. This is income and income. I've already drawn income and okay. So that's it. So now write down the keywords. So whatever we have discussed, let's put it on paper. Complement, substitutes. Substitute is, suppose if I have to draw a graph. Okay, so if I'm putting price of coffee on y-axis, I'm putting demand for tea on x-axis. Okay, price of coffee, okay, on y-axis, and demand for tea. Okay, so this is called as a cross demand graph, where I'm putting two different items in the graph. Okay, now how will this graph look like? Rightward sloping or leftward? Is this graph okay? If price of coffee is less, demand for tea is less. But if price for coffee is more, okay, people will shift to tea. So demand for tea will be more. Got the point, right? Okay, so this is basically a substitute. Complementary, somebody is asking. So complementary can be, suppose if I take pen and ink, I take price, and here I'm taking demand for ink. Okay, so if pen price is more, demand for ink will be less. Okay, if pen price is less, then demand for ink will be more. Okay, this is complementary, but of course I didn't want to discuss that now, but I just want you all to understand the basic demand graph, the basic session. Okay, so till here, I think things are clear. So please write down the keywords for today. All the slides, all the 3 slides will be shared. I think videos also they will give you. So slides will be shared. Okay, so this is yesterday's. Write down protectionism. 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 Then write down liquid currency. Liquid currency. Then write down hard currency. Hard currency in bracket write gold. Hard currency in bracket write gold. Gold. Then write down forex. Forex reserve. Okay. Write down hedging. 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 Hedging means avoiding risk. Avoiding risk. Then write down World Bank and IMF. World Bank and IMF. World Bank and IMF. Okay. Then write down Bretton Woods Conference. Bretton Woods, TRETTON. Bretton Woods Conference. Then write down Bretton Woods Twins. Bretton Woods Twins. Twins means here World Bank and IMF. Bretton Woods Twins. World Bank and IMF. Rupee and dollar value are decided based on market only, demand and supply on a daily basis. Okay, Bretton Woods Twins. Akshara. Okay, decided based on market on demand supply. Bretton Woods Twins. Then write down depreciation of currency. Depreciation of currency. Then write down devaluation of currency. Devaluation of currency. Devalue. Then write down appreciation of currency. Appreciation. Then write down SDR. Special drawing rights. Special drawing rights. Special drawing rights. Special drawing rights. Issued by IMF. Issued by IMF. Special drawing rights, SDR. How many currencies determine SDR? 5 major currencies which we discussed. Okay. Then write down flight of capital. One more word. One more word there. Flight of capital. Flight of capital. Okay. Then write down pent up demand. Pent up demand. PENT. PENT. Pent up demand. Pent up demand. Okay, that's all. Pent up demand. PENT. Pent up demand. That's it. Graphs are okay. Simple graphs we discussed. So that's all, Ma. I hope you enjoyed the economy classes and anything else. Like I think the slides will be shared to you, and the videos you can. I think the first the 3 sessions videos will be given to you. Okay, so that's all. So thank you. I hope you have after SDR flight of capital, pent of demand. I hope you have enjoyed and keep following the news basically. Okay, so one suggestion is please keep following the newspaper and see what is happening around you and try analyzing more than reading. So these are my suggestions generally. Think like what is happening, and yes. So yeah, fine. Yeah, videos they have, I think the institute has, they'll send the videos. Okay, so that's all, ma. Thank you. Thanks. That's it.